Welcome to the Fancy Cakery. Welcome to my kitchen. A little later, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with these tins once they have been simmered very gently in a pot of boiling water for 3.5 to almost 4 hours. I'm making apple pie spice cake with caramel sweet cream frosting. And I wanted to have some decorations, so I decided to slice some apple slices, and then they don't always go even, so you gotta play with it a little bit. And I'm gonna put this in the oven at 200 degrees for about 2 hours, and you'll get these beautiful little dehydrated apple slices. And now we're gonna make our cake. We're preheating our oven, and we're just gonna get started making our cake. We're gonna use our flour and our baking soda, and we're gonna put spices in this cake. And I make my own spices, and I ran out of my pumpkin pie and apple pie spice. So I had chai spice, and I used it, and it was absolutely delicious. I would definitely use it again, no doubt, but you can use apple pie spice or pumpkin pie spice in this. And as always, you're gonna sift your dry ingredients. Those little black specks are my allspice, so I did not want to lose them. They all had to go in my cake. And I'm just going to put my wet ingredients together. That's my sugar. And I used sour cream, but you can definitely use just some plain yogurt if you don't have it. And I'm using vegetable oil here. And we're just going to mix up our wet ingredients and make sure they're nice and incorporated together before we move on with our delicious apple pie spice cake. This recipe calls for just a little over 2 cups of chopped apples, and I chopped them in small dices. And you can use any type of baking apples you want, red or white. I think these are Gala, but I'm not 100% sure. Whatever was in the Kroger that day that was not expensive, that's the ones that I picked. And I'm going to put my dry ingredients into my wet ingredients. And I'm going to do this by hand at first. And this batter is going to be a little on the thick side, as you will see when I'm finished mixing it. It's kind of thick. It's not your runny batter. But when you add the apples, it's going to thin out. The juice from the apples and the moisture from the apples is going to thin it out a little bit. Honestly, all of my children licked the bowl when I was done. This recipe is a keeper. It is very delicious. Even if you don't do that frosting, even if you don't do the apple pie filling, this cake itself will be absolutely delicious just by itself with a nice cup of tea. Super good for fall. And I don't have a scale yet, so I just even out my batter. I use the ice cream scoop first, and then I just kind of even it out. And we're going to bake that at 350 for 35 to 40 minutes. And it still was a little moist, but not raw. And I left it like that because I didn't want to overbake them, because when you take cakes out of the oven, they still continue to cook. And when the pan is cool enough where I can touch it, I just shake the sides and I shake the cake out basically. And this is the fun part. This is my absolute fun part. While the cakes are cooling, I'm gonna make my frosting. And in the last videos, I showed you how to make frosting with cold sweet cream. Well, I used those tins that I put in the pot after I boiled them, and I'm put one in the fridge to get nice and cold, and that's the one that I'm going to use to make this sweet cream caramel buttercream. And you see, it turned into a nice caramel. I think they call it dulce de leche. I'm not even sure the difference between caramel and dulce de leche, but this is an easy way to make caramel. And I just, when the cans, I kind of flipped them around in the pot as they were boiling, gently simmering for the 3.5 to 4 hours. And you can go a little longer if you want your caramel darker. You could go a little less if you want your caramel a lighter color. And I did put this in the fridge. Like I said, it won't work if your sweet cream is not cold, but it's so rich and decadent. You're gonna love this frosting. And I'm just going to put my cake together. And I made some apple pie filling. I have a video that I will link if you want the recipe to that. And this is just a simple syrup with sugar and water to make the cakes, to keep them nice and moist. And I'm pretty steady with my hand, so I just used my hand to pour that on. But if you're not steady, you can use a brush. And we're just gonna put this beautiful, delicious apple pie spice cake together. Now that we have our cake all put together with our frosting, we're just going to put some texture on the outside before we put our caramel drip on the cake. And you can, if you don't have a turntable, you can use a butter knife or anything in your house to make some texture on the outside. Or if you want to just take your time and smooth this as beautiful, smooth as you want, that will work too. And this can I did not put in the fridge. I just left this at room temperature. And you can put it in a piping bag and do this drip, or you can put it in a squeeze bottle. I just wanted it to be very rustic looking. I wasn't going for perfection on this one. So I just used my spatula to just kind of push it over the edges so it can just drip down. And it will continue to drip, as you'll see, and it'll kind of go all the way down eventually. But I just think it's so beautiful. And that sweet cream turned into the most delicious caramel. Honestly, don't be stressed out about making caramel. All you need is time and a pot and sweet cream, and you're good to go. And if I had put this in the fridge and got it nice and firm, my fingerprint on the bottom, you wouldn't see that. But I was not worried because you can cover that with a little bit of piping to the bottom. So there's always a way to hide imperfections. And I'm just gonna clean up my dish so it's not all goopy. And we are just gonna put a nice swirl of buttercream on top. And then we're going to decorate with our apple slices. This cake is so decadent. You're going to absolutely have to try this for fall. And the weather in Texas here just dropped 20 degrees in one day. So fall is definitely here, and it's time for our fall bacon. And this, I think, was the perfect choice for my first fall video this year. So delicious. My son is helping me pick slices. You have got to try this cake. And let's eat this cake together. Let's get some of that velvet frosting with the spiced cake. And let's not forget to get some of those nice apples. And let's just, it is velvety and just delicious. Join me next time in the Fancy Cakery where we got some more bacon to do. And whatever you do, don't stop baking. If you liked this video, watch one of these other videos. And like, subscribe, and comment so you can keep baking with me.